The FBI Biometric Identification Award is presented to an outstanding law enforcement officer or agency for their efforts in solving major cases through the use of the Next Generation Identification System, or NGI. The 2022 Biometric Identification Award is presented to the West Virginia State Police Forensic Laboratory and the Martinsburg Police Department, West Virginia.
On July 27, 2017, we were called to a residence in reference to a shooting that had taken place. When we arrived on scene, the victim was being tended to by medics from the Martinsburg Fire Department. At that time, it was apparent that he had been shot. He was trying to communicate with us, but we asked him to just wait, and we talked to him when we got to the hospital.
On the day of the shooting, I went to the hospital with the intention of speaking to the victim to gather more information about the scene and the suspect, but ultimately he succumbed to his injuries at the hospital, and we were working a murder case.
While on the scene investigating, we stayed to interview multiple witnesses who gave us a consistent description of what the suspect looked like. They also provided an account that the suspect had shown up at the victim's home and the two had gotten into an argument, at which time the suspect produced a firearm and shot our victim. All of the witnesses consistently named the male as T. That was the only name that they knew him by. We worked this case very aggressively right from the start. We kept talking to witnesses, running down leads. We eventually found a female who was an associate of this male. We were able to track him back to a trailer outside of city limits where we found that he had been staying. We spoke to the residents of that trailer who allowed us to do a search of that trailer. He had left property there.
At the time we collected the evidence, we still only knew the suspect as T. We were hopeful that the evidence that we collected that we sent to the State Police Forensic Lab would give us an identification of who T actually was.
The West Virginia State Police Forensic Laboratory services all 55 counties, their municipal and county agencies, as well as any federal agencies. So ATF and FBI, we work with medical examiners' cases. So any agency that needs assistance can have it provided for free from the West Virginia State Police Forensic Laboratory. Case assignment was made for Martinsburg Police Department homicide, in which I received several items that they had submitted for latent print processing. These included small items like a pocket lighter, different wrappers, and then a 2-page handwritten note, which they did not know the author of. Of all of the evidence that was submitted in this case, the notebook paper provided the best chance at latent print recovery due to its porous nature. I was able to develop 2 latent prints off of the first page of the notebook paper based off of the chemical reaction with amino acids left by his sweat. So the 2 latent prints of value that were recovered were from the same finger, meaning that it was a double touch. The person had placed their finger at one point and then just slightly moved it. After I processed the page and developed the latent prints, I searched the first one through the West Virginia State database with negative results. I searched it through the NGI database and received a top #1 candidate match. When I got the top NGI candidate, I did a charted enlargement. That enlargement was then sent for a first verification. The examiner agreed with me, and then my file moved on to final verification. I called the submitting officer with the report results once it had been verified by the supervisor. The severity of this case and the amount of time that was between the evidence being submitted and the crime occurring was very, very short. Due to NGI, we were able to identify a potential suspect in less than 24 hours for a homicide.
The print gave us an identification. It identified a male named Marcus Ben. Lieutenant Allball would take that information and go into, I believe it was Tennessee, DMV, and generate a photograph from that person. So we were able to take that photograph and put it in a photo lineup and show our witnesses. They were able to pick him out of a photo lineup. At that point, we knew that was our shooter. We obtained a warrant for him for murder first degree. In the meantime, he had got locked up or arrested in Washington County, Maryland for another crime. So Lieutenant Albaugh and I traveled to Washington County and executed our warrant on him there. Once he was extradited back to West Virginia, he pled guilty to second-degree murder, where he's now serving 25 years here in West Virginia. We didn't know who this male was. We knew he was a drifter. He hadn't been in town very long, and he left town right after this crime occurred.
NGI allows us to search the entire United States, where if we only had the records of the West Virginia state database, we would be extremely hamstrung in our ability to solve crime.
The agencies that aren't submitting to NGI aren't utilizing all the resources available to them. Without their assistance, we would have not solved this case in the manner that we did.
Tap into the power of NGI. To learn more about using NGI services, go to www.fbi.gov. To submit for the Biometric Identification Award, send an email to biometrichit@leo.gov.